Welcome back. In this particular video, we will use some of the IBM tools like speech to text, Watson Assistant, and text to speech to create an application which will initially record audio from the microphone, transcribe the audio using IBM's Watson speech to text, and then send the transcribed text to Watson Assistant and receive a response, and then convert the assistant response to speech using IBM Watson text to speech. And finally, we'll play the assistant's verbal response in this video. So let's get started. To start, we'll need all these three different resources. So if you do not have a IBM Cloud account, I would recommend you to create one. And then inside the catalog, you can go and search for, first let's do Watson Assistant. Create a location something close to me. We have read and create a Watson Assistant. Once the assistant is created, I'm going to say launch Watson X Assistant. And then create a first assistant. Here I'm going to say meaning of life. And I'll not add any description, I'll go next. In this particular I will say web, tell us about yourself, say banking and financial, lead strategist. I want to provide confident answers to common questions, so I'll just use some of the first default ones. Next, I am not going to use any of these things, so I'm just going to say next and keep the default, and then say create. Now once it's created, I'm going to create an action. In here I'm going to create a simple action where I'll say what is the meaning of life. Save, and assistant will say the meaning of life is 42. That's it, and I'll say end of action, and I'm going to save this, close it. So it's saved. We have that assistant created. So next step in our thing is let's create speech to text and text to speech items. So I'm going to go back to my catalog, and here create speech to text, keep it in the same zone, create. Gives me a getting started, but I'll directly go to service credentials, and this is where my credentials are. So that's all I need. And next I'm going to create another resource. Change this location again to same Dallas and create. Once I have all my items available, I can go back to resource list and make sure that I open them individually separately. So I can link in new tab. I think I have Watson Assistant already open here. So I need this first one, speech to text, and the second one is text to speech. Once I have everything open, I will probably go here and take down the text to speech API credentials. This guy's credentials are this. I'm going to paste it here, and the URL, service URL, I'll save it here. Next one that I need is, was it this one? Yeah, speech to text. Copy this, and I'm going to call it speech to text, and copy the URL. Next I'm going to go to Watson Assistant, and here I can go to assistant settings, and in here I will find assistant ID and API details. So I'm going to copy these things. I need, in this particular case I'm running a draft environment, so I'm going to copy the draft environment ID, assistant, and this is my draft environment ID. And for my service URL, I have it here, or I can always go here and get it from the same place, which is right click, open link in new tab, and I can copy the API key here and URL from here. So I have everything that I need. So let's go ahead and build this structure. The first step is to speech to text. So let me create a folder here, new folder. I'm going to call it code. Open this in Sublime Text right here. I'll keep this handy in this particular tab here. Create a new file. So for first, we'll just do speech to text first box where I'm going to record some audio and convert that audio into text. So for that, I would use a bunch of libraries like pyaudio for capturing audio input from the microphone, and then I'll use Wave for saving the audio to a file before sending it to Watson's HTTP service. So I'm going to, let's call this S or yes, it's speech to text dot py, saves it here, and I'm going to import py audio, import, I need wave, I need JSON for the APIs, I need IBM Watson library, you can say IBM Watson. So IBM Watson, this library is used for connecting to IBM Watson's HTTP service, and from there I will import speech to text v1. That's the framework that I'll use, library that I'll use from that framework. And then next one for authentication with my APIs. So the IAMAuthenticator in IBM's Cloud SDK is used to authenticate API request by providing an API key for identity. So I am going to call that SDK underscore core. That's the framework. Inside that we have authenticators, import, I mentioned IAM authenticator. So these are the libraries that I want. Also, before I start, let's open terminal, cd desktop, cd code. I'm going to go inside that folder. I'm going to create a virtual environment. I'll call it python -m virtual environment. Call it test IBM, and then I'll source it. Source test IBM /bin/activate. So I have that. Clear it out, and I need to install my library. So I'm going to say install. First I need IBM Watson, I need pyaudio, and I need Wave. So those are installed. Once that is installed, I'm good to go. So now let's finish this application. Now let's create variables for our API key. API key equal to, you will have to use your own API. My API key will not work for you, and this is speech to text, which is this API. So I'm going to use that API key, and then I will create a variable for service URL equal to, copy this, paste it here. Okay, perfect. So I have my API key and service URL added here. Next, let's initialize the speech to text service. So for that, I will create a variable called as authenticator equal to, and here I'm going to use IAMAuthenticator that I've created and pass the API key to it. Next, speech to text variable I'll create, and this variable will use that speech to text v1, and it needs authenticator equal to authenticator. So that's the parameter it needs. Next thing I need is speech to text, set the service URL. So I can take this dot set underscore service URL, and into this I'll pass the service URL. So this will initialize my speech to text service. Next, let's initialize the pyaudio. So for that I'll create a variable called as audio pyaudio dot py audio is the fun call, is the class that I'll call in there, initialize that. Now I'll start recording. So I'm gonna give a text to my terminal saying that I'm recording here, and to capture the stream I will create a variable and I'll say audio dot open, and this audio needs some function, like it needs what format. For this I'll create a format parameter here, format equal to pyaudio dot pa int 16. So audio format of 16-bit. That's what. There's some other thing that I would might need is channels equal to how many number of channels that you want. I want mono, which is one single channel. Then a rate of the audio. So this is sample rate of, I'll say 16 kilohertz for speech to text. So that is 16,000. Next is chunk. So this is audio chunk size. So we want to chunk the audio into multiple pieces if it's really big. And how long do I want to record? So for that I'll specify less to 5 seconds. What is the meaning of life? Doesn't take more than 5 seconds. Next one is wave output underscore file name. So where is the output of that audio? Let's create a file name called as output.wav. So that's good. I have my format here, and now next thing that needs is channels, which is a channels parameter that we created. Next thing that it needs is rate, that is rate we created. Next thing that it needs is input equal to true, so providing the input true, and then finally it needs frames per buffer. So this is for the chunk size that we created, how much it needs to chunk it in. So that's what I have created here. Frames, I'm going to set it to empty right now, and this I'll be filling it up as and when I capture the audio. So let me just go to the next line. Oops. Move it up so it's easier for you to see. So here I'm going to go capture the audio data. I in our range of 0 comma int rate divide by chunk. I'm going to explain this in a second. Record seconds. So for each of that, for whatever we are recording, and for that chunk that we get, I want to put this data into frames. So it will give me the data from here. I can say stream dot read that chunk and then add that to my frames. So frames dot append data. So this will create my array frames with all the audio that is recorded, which is divided into chunks of the size, this 1024 audio chunk size, and add it in this particular array. So that is done over there. Next, now once that is done, let's make sure we are saying stop recording after the recording is done. So I'm going to say recording finished, and then stream dot, I'll have to stop the stream, so that's stop stream function, I'll call it. Next thing I need to do is stream dot, I'll have to close the stream, so for that I'll close it, and finally I'll also terminate the audio, which is our pyaudio class here. So that kind of does our cleanup for stopping the recording. Now let's save the recorded audio to a file. So I'm going to say wf equal to wave.open. This is another library that we imported, and here I'm going to say wave output file, and to that write I'll give the right permissions. Wf equal to, I'll set the channels for this as channels. Next I need to set the sample width, which is samp width audio dot get underscore sample size, and to this I'll pass format. So that's what it needs. Finally, another thing, and a couple of things that I'll say is frame. I think set frame rate is what it needs, which is the rate. And then I need to write the frames, write frame function b byte size dot join frames, and then finally I'll close this. So I have my wave created here, so recorded audio to a particular file, so we save that. Now whatever we have, we open that saved audio file and transcribe using our final speech to text. So for that I'll say with, I'll call the with command open, and I have wave output file name rb permissions as audio, call it audio file, something like that. That open, I'll say response equal to speech to text dot recog, the function is called recognize. So speech to text dot recognize, and inside that I'll pass the parameters. First one it needs is audio, which is our audio file which we just created. Come on, show me audio file. Next parameter is what type of content it is, content underscore type. In this case, since we are passing wave file, I'll say audio slash wave type. Next thing that it needs is the model. So in this particular case, I will say English dash US. You can change the model if needed for other languages, but this is the common one used for English, broadband model. And then I'll say dot get underscore result. So this will have my data, and now once I have that, I'm going to extract the transcription script from it. So I'm going to say transcript. So whatever I get back, the response, inside the response I will have an array of results. So I'm going to say I'm going to look for that array of results. Out of that I'm going to take the first item, and inside that there will be an array of alternatives. That's what I'm looking for. First item from there, which will have my transcript. And then finally I'll say print, just to see if it did right by us. I'll say transcription is comma transcript. So that's the entire code for our speech to text. So we used the APIs, we did everything properly. I hope there's no errors, but let's see. The best way to find it is to run it. So I'm going to say python stt.py hello welcome 123. Gave me an error, something error here. Let's see. Oh, it's n channels. How many channels you want to use? Since we're using one mono channel, that was the mistake. Let's try it again. What is the meaning of life? Oh, another mistake. Oh, instead of SAMP, clear, run it again. What is the meaning of life? Oh, this time it worked. It's recording finished, so it's going to send it to IBM and get the data. What is the meaning of life? There you go. It transcribed properly. I can run it again. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It recorded for 5 seconds and then it kept on saying. So it got until 9, 10, 11, 12. That's what it got, and then it stopped. That's how much I could speak for 5 seconds. And there you go. That's our completion of our first step, which is speech to text. Next thing that we will do is let's get the data from Watson Assistant. So this is a much simpler one. In this case, I'm going to create another file and I'll call it assistant.py, and inside this I would need IBM underscore. I think I need some of the same ones, so I'm going to just copy from here. So I need not this one, but I need Assistant v2 is what I need. I need IBM Cloud Core IAMAuthenticator. That's good. And now let's authenticate it. I'll say authenticator equal to IAMAuthenticator and pass it the key. So I have right here. So my assistant key is here. I'm gonna pass that here inside quotes, of course. And then next thing that I need is assistant equal to assistant v2. I'll have to specify the version that I'm using. The current version right now is 2021-06-14. You can check it in the documentation. And then authenticator equal to pass the authenticator, something similar to the previous HTTP app that we read. Next one, assistant dot set service URL equal to, in this particular case, I'll get the service URL for assistant. This is it. Pass it here. Perfect. And then I'll get the response directly here. Since I'm just passing the text, I don't have to like record anything. I'll probably merge everything together at the end. But for now, let's call the function message stateless. And inside this, the parameters that it needs is, first one it needs is assistant ID that we got from when we created our assistant. So that is right here, draft environment ID. Copy this and paste it here. Next thing that it needs is a message, a question. So in this particular case, I am going to say the message type is of the type text, and then it needs the message in the text format. So I'm going to say text is what is the meaning of life. That was my question for the assistant. And the once I get, I'll have to say get result. Perfect. That will get my result in the response. Now what is the reply that I get? Where is in this particular response? Again, from the documentation it says it's an output generic at position 0 first item, and inside that I'll have the text. So let's say print meaning of life. What does it reply back? Let's check it out. So let's run this. This is called assistant.py. So I am going to run that. I'm gonna say python assistant.py. Run this code, and meaning of life is 42. This was what we had entered in our IBM Watson X Assistant. If you launch the Watson Assistant and look at it, let me go back, actions. What is the meaning of life? And the answer was the meaning of life is 42, and that's what assistant replied back, and that's what we see right here. The meaning of life is 42. So now that leaves us with only one last thing, which is right here, text to speech. So text to speech is much simpler again because we don't have to record anything, we just have to play the sound. So for that I'll be using I'll be writing that file into an audio file for now, but later I'll show you how to even play it using your speakers. So for now, let's get the data. So again, same stuff. So I'll probably better off copy it from here, paste it here. This time I'll use text to speech v1, and I need the authenticator. I'll call it text to speech.py, and in here I will use almost the same code, and I'll say authenticator IAM. Let's pass the API accordingly, which is text to speech. Copy that, paste it. Next thing, I need the URL, and assist of this one. Okay, let me just make sure it's here first, because the next line is text to speech. That's what I'll call it, v1, and this just needs authenticator. Then finally I'll say text to speech set authenticator URL is this one, or set service URL to this, so that is set. And now, okay, I don't need this part. I'll say with open, I am going to open a file called as output dash audio dot wave file, give it the permissions wb and as audio file, and in here I'll get the response equal to text to speech dot synthesize. That's the function that I need to call, and to that I'll pass the parameters reply that I get except equal to audio slash wave file, that's what we get back, and voice that I want to pick. So there's a bunch of different voice options. I will pick a voice called as Allison, en dash us underscore Allison. There's Allison v3 voice and Allison expressive. Expressive is more nicer. Not sure if it's available though. Let's see on the API, but I've used it in the interface. Let's say get result, and I'll say audio file dot write whatever response I get dot content. So that's about it. Let's go ahead and run the application. So I am going to say python tts.py. Oh, I just said reply here, whereas I need to pass some text there. Since we are testing text to speech, we are not getting the reply from the assistant. So let's run that again. And now let's go back to our code and see if the audio output file which was just created.
Hello, how are you?
So there you go. That's what it recorded. So this got us to a point where we have passed some speech audio and then got text back. We did the Watson Assistant when we gave some text and got the speech back. Now to combine all of them together. So I'm going to create a new file. So that's my file where I will put all the code together into one. I can rewrite it just so that it's easier for us to understand of all the step inside one. So I am going to copy paste one thing at a time. I need the libraries pyaudio, wave, json. Also I want to display sound the audio, so I'm going to import simple audio as sa. You can probably make sure that that is available. JSON, I'm not using JSON anywhere actually, so I can get rid of that. Simple v1, I needed assistant v2, and I need text to speech v1, so I'm going to make sure those are available. Authenticator. The first step is to let's get the API keys here. So this was the speech to text, so I'm going to get that speech to text API key. I'm going to call it stt underscore, and this was stt underscore service URL. So I have both of them available. Next thing, I need the assistant. So copy this and paste it here. Get the assistant API key. Make sure you copy the entire thing. So this was, let's call it WA API key. This one we'll call it WA Watson Assistant. That's what I mean here. And then we need assistant ID. That I can get from, where did I use it here? Assistant ID, and put it here. So I have that, and then finally is text to TTS, which is text to speech, which is this one. So this is my, make sure I have the entire thing, or else it will give me error. Have that, and then the URL. Let's take that right here. So I have that. Perfect. So I have all the three things, all the three APIs available here. Now let's initialize the speech to audio text service, which was here. So I can probably copy the entire thing just as it is, but I want to do it one thing at a time. So let's go ahead. So this one, the API key, pass that thing, pass it here. I call that, let's make sure we name it properly, HTTP authenticator. The first one, speech to text, perfect. And of course, I need this authenticator, speech to text, set service, set, perfect. So that is all set. Next thing that we need is the uh, authentication for Watson Assistant. So that for that I have done this. I'll copy this here, bring it here. I'll call it W Authenticator, IAMAuthenticator, and need that API key. Assistant equal to Assistant v2 version authenticator equal to W Authenticator. Set service URL is WA service URL. So that's perfect. Next, let's do the same thing for text to speech. So I'm going to copy this over here, call it TTS, text to speech, set service URL. Again, here it's TTS service URL. This goes here and API key here. So perfect. So I have all three of them initialized, so that's good. Now audio recording formats, let's take that. Let me just move it up all the way. So audio recording parameters, which are here, I'm going to take this here. So this is our format. I'm going to also get most of the code from here. So let's see what we need and what we don't need. So I have my format set. I'm initializing the pyaudio. I am, let's see, okay, print. Now here, instead of doing this, since I want to run one thing at a time, I'm going to create a record audio from microphone function. So I'm going to call it record underscore audio. So it's much more simpler and reusable in future. And this goes under it. And then stream goes under it. Frames captures the audio, perfect. Stream close. Next, RWFs, perfect. So this all is good, uh, but I don't want to use this one because I will probably pass these values from somewhere else, but I'll keep it here at the bottom for now. Next thing is step 2 is using IBM speech to text to transcribe the audio. So for that I am going to create another transcribe underscore audio, and here is where I will be using this. Put it in a different function. So one thing at a time we will run, and then this returns my transcript. Okay, so whatever it recorded or whatever it transcribed, it will get me that back. Now next step is to send the transcribed text to Watson Assistant. So for that I'll create another function. I'm going to call it get underscore assistant underscore response, and to this I'll pass transcript which I got from the above function. That's why it's good to have it in this particular format. And for this I'll just copy paste this one, response assistant state message, and here instead of this I will pass it this W assistant ID, perfect. Input is this is good, and then I'll say get result, perfect. Now instead of this I'll call it assistant underscore reply equal to response. Is this what I'm getting? I can print it here and I can return the assistant reply to wherever it was called from. So that kind of takes care of sending the transcribed text to Watson Assistant and getting a reply from the assistant. Next thing is convert the assistant response to speech using the text to speech library. So I'm going to say convert underscore text to speech, and I need for this the assistant reply. And over here I will copy paste this code with open assist. So this is our audio. We can probably change it to something else. Assistant underscore response dot wave file, just so that it replaces, it has a new name there. I want response text to speech synthesize, and in here, instead of passing this, I will pass the assistant reply. Get the answer. Let's make sure everything is fine. Did I use this transcript? Nope, I did not. So let's make sure here also we pass the transcript. Let's make sure. Okay, this doesn't need input. It takes the input from the audio file. This is transcript, and this uses the assistant reply right here. And then accept audio wave, voice is this one, that's good, get result, and we get this audio file which will write the response to. And finally I'll call a function called as play audio, which we have not written yet, and I'll pass to it this file. Perfect. Now step 5, let's write that function to play audio, and it needs a file name. Now in here, so wave underscore object that we have sa dot, if you remember this is our simple audio that we have imported. So sa dot wave object dot from, where is it located, wave, I think it's called file, that's the function, and to it I pass the file name. So that's what I pass, and then I'll say play underscore obj, another one, and I'll say wave underscore obj dot play. This is how you play the sound. And then when it's done, I'll say wait underscore done. So wait until it's done. And here, so once it's done, you can finish it, but I'm just gonna leave it there. And then now finally I will create a main function. This is the main function to run the entire process. So that's why I've created everything in functions. So here, first step, what do I want to do? I want to record the audio. So what is the function for that we created? It's called record audio. So I'll call that. I'll say go ahead and record the audio. Next step, I want to get the transcript from that recorded audio. From which function was that? Transcribe audio. So I'm going to call that function. Perfect. That will return back the transcript. Next step, I want the assistant reply, which comes from get assistant response, is the function that we wrote right here, and it needs transcript. So I'm going to pass it the transcript. And next step is to convert, what was that function? Convert text to speech, pass this, and to that I will pass assistant reply. And then that will play the audio. So everything is set here, rest of it. So now run the main process. To run the main process in Python, you do name equal to underscore underscore main, and inside that I call the main function, and at the end I will also do the cleanup audio dot terminate. So this will close the pyaudio stream resources. So perfect. So I have everything set up here. Let's see if it works from end to end. So let's go ahead, clear it out. I'm going to say python complete.py, and it has a problem. No, okay, I have install. Okay, clear. So now that's available. Let's go ahead and run it. It looks like it's taking a transcription from somewhere from the previous project. We have record audio here, but it's not calling that. Oh, right here. Makes sense. It was not calling. Let's go ahead and try again. What is the meaning of life? So I recorded it, what is meaning of life, and it's listened to it. It's going to convert now what is the meaning of life, and I have an error here. This error might mean that I'm using some wrong APIs. So I'm going to clear it out, go back, and it's causing problem at the assistant level. So I'm going to make sure my assistant API key, which is this one, is right. Okay, that's good. Next one is the URL. Oh, it looks a little different from what it was. Maybe I've copy pasted this previous one. So that's probably is the problem. So that probably should fix it. Let's go back and try again. What is the meaning of life? And it worked. It got me the meaning of life is 42, but it did not work with. Oh, I think I have. Did you mean test? Oh, I think I spelled it wrong. Text to speech makes sense. Text to speech, text to speech. So perfect. So that should probably work fine. Let's run it again. What is the meaning of life? So we got the answer from. I was still talking, so I'm not sure if it worked this time. It gave me the answer. What is the meaning of life? But there is a problem in the object has no synthesize variable. Speech to text V1 adapter. Let's see where is that synthesize function that we write. Text to speech, and this is speech to text. Not this is wrong. I forgot to change the function name. Perfect. Let's run it one more time. What is the meaning of life? It says write to closed file, which is in my convert text to speech. So it says that the file is closed. Oh, I forgot that this needs to be here. Perfect. So that should, because it's inside the with function, it should be inside the with loop, not outside. So let's run it again. Hopefully this is the last one. What is the meaning of life? Gonna send it to transcription. Then it's gonna get my reply from what is the meaning of life from assistant. It
The
says,
meaning of life is 42.
and that completes my entire. I have not closed the thing after the file. That's why it gave me that error. But it gave me the entire flow. I can run it again. What is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is 42.
Perfect. So it worked. That's what we wanted. And we went through the entire cycle where we recorded the voice, we transcribed it from speech to text. Then Watson X Assistant got that text and it gave me the right answer, which is the meaning of life is from the assistant. And from that, I took that audio file or the text from that I got from Watson Assistant and converted into speech using the TTS library from IBM. And then I played it on my laptop, and that's what you heard. So if you have any questions or if you had any issues following along, let me know and I'll get back to you. Thank you.